If a guy is dating some girl and he's also seeing another girl at the same time, he will be sort of 渣男.
Not saying anyone's ever said it to me. Hi guys, welcome to the Jujube Show.
I'm Ting Ting.
And I'm Jack.
And in this show, we bring you the discussion about the culture difference between the East and the West.
Right, and so today we're talking about the difference in dating culture between the West and China.
Yes, and to begin with, I got a question for Jack. So normally, how long does it take for you to get into a romantic relationship?
So for me, because I might know someone for like a long time and never have that kind of dealings with them, but like from the time that you start dating, I guess, or seeing each other one-on-one to girlfriend and boyfriend relationship, if it does develop into that, is maybe a month or two, I want to say. A month or two. So how about you? Usually how long is it for you?
I think it depends, but normally in China it's also around 1 to 3 months. So it's similar, a little
That's
similar.
about the same, right?
Yeah, but I know that there's also quite a lot of difference between the US and China about the dating culture. Like in China, many traditional Chinese people will view the Western dating culture as maybe too casual, not serious, or like you guys just don't value marriage and don't take too serious to start a family.
And then in the West, if someone came to China, they might think that dating or marriage here is too rushed, and it's too almost utilitarian in a sense, like it's too much for its utilitarian purposes, like having children or starting a family, and not so much for your spouse or the marriage itself or the love itself.
So can you describe it for us, like what kind of the timeline and procedures of the dating culture in US looks like?
So in America, typically, at least in my experience, is that you will maybe know this person before, and then eventually you find out like, hey, this person might like me, or I like them, and then you start to talk to them or text them like one-on-one, and sometimes you start on what's like a date but with multiple friends, and then eventually you move to like one-on-one dates, or you might just go right to one-on-one dates, and then you will kind of go into from talking to seeing if you're dating them often. And at this time, usually not for everyone, but for at least a good portion of Americans, is you will have certain relations before you are in a formal girlfriend-boyfriend relationship, right? Like kissing, hooking up and all that is a lot of the times before you are boyfriend and girlfriend. But not for everyone, of course.
In China, if you want to build a relationship with someone, like when you first meet someone, then you maybe just hang out with him or with her. You can hang out. It's just kind of casual dating, but also normally just
like just friends.
Just friends, yeah.
Right.
Then you hang out with someone, and maybe after 1 month, then these two people will consider that whether we need to get into a relationship or not. Two people, they will try to like build a chemistry and confess love. So normally just 2 steps: hang out and relationship.
So before a relationship, will you guys even kiss? Or would you even hug? Or is it like no like physical contact at all?
I think it depends, but mostly I think they hug and kiss. It depends. Because most of the Chinese people, they don't kiss before they commit to each other. But nowadays, I think maybe the younger generation, they hold different view, and the people will try to hug and kiss before they get into a relationship.
How do you know that you are dating a person and not just hanging out? Because what if I think I'm just hanging out with this person, and because I think I'm just hanging out just like a friend, I can go hang out with other girls too? How do you know that this is dating and not just normal hanging out?
I think in China that's a very clear line that if you're hanging out with someone, that means you're just hanging out with friends, and you can maybe hang out with a lot of people, a lot of guys. But if you're dating someone, that means exclusive. You just 1-to-1.
If you go out with a guy and it's just you two, then that is dating.
Yeah. If you're lots of people, then maybe that's hangout.
Okay, so it's just like a numbers game.
Yeah, numbers game.
Okay. Well, that's funny because there was one girl that I liked before in China, and like I went out on like 2 dates or something with her. Like, and for me, like I didn't say the word date. But to me, I thought it was pretty obvious. Like you said, like, we're going out, just the two of us. And after a couple times, like, it came up, the idea of dating and stuff. And she was like totally taken aback. She's like, oh, we're dating? I thought we were just hanging out. Because like I remember like she was into interpretation or something, like her major was translation. And when I started talking to her, this was like my excuse, right? To take her on dates and to talk to her, was that I was interested in translation as well. So I was talking to her about that and she's like, oh, I thought you were just interested in translation. I didn't know this was actually a date. And I was like, are you kidding me? We went to the movies and ate dinner. You didn't like pick up on it, so I guess it's not something that all people.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it applies to every single one in China. If you, when you're dating someone and you go for dinners with him and you watch movies together, that means dating. I think normally that's something romantic.
So that's, I feel like that's different from America for most people, because it's usually that you talk to them and then you see them on dates and stuff, and then maybe after a couple dates you will, what you would call hooking up, which could be anything from kissing to actually having sex. And after that point, that might go on for maybe a few weeks or maybe even like a month. And then it gets to the point where one person in the relationship, what is this relationship? Like that's the question, like what is this? Or what are we? That's the question. And that's when you have to determine, do I want to date this person officially as a exclusive relationship or not? And that's usually, I feel like, maybe a month or two into the whole process.
In China, like if you hang out with some guy and you date with him, you can't see anyone else.
Even before you say your boyfriend, girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, normally that's true.
So I feel, so with a lot of Americans, when you say you're boyfriend and girlfriend, what that means is that you are technically exclusive. I feel like that's the main thing that it means. Because before that, you've kind of done almost a lot of things that girlfriend and boyfriend do. Like hooking up and going on dates and going out and hanging out all sorts of places. Those are things you've already done. And then when you get in a relationship, that's one of the main things is that we're exclusive and that we don't see anyone else at this point. Before that, if you're dating a lot, you should probably not see other people, but you technically could.
In China, even before the relationship, you are dating with someone, that typically means exclusive dating. Because like if a guy is dating some girl and if he's also seeing another girl at the same time, he will be sort of like disrespect and people will call him 渣男.
Yeah, 渣男.
Like the jerk or the...
It's a very common word here.
Yeah.
Not saying anyone's ever said it to me, but I've heard it other places.
Yeah.
Also, once you're in a relationship, you can maybe, and sometimes this is a little after the relationship, after you've been in it for a while, so that you could go and see their parents, or you could plan vacations or
in the future.
plan like things in the future. Before that, if you're not girlfriend and boyfriend, you wouldn't want to make plans too far in the future because you don't even know if there is a future with these two people. Right?
Yeah. So the dating culture in China is really interesting. It's not like there's no clear like definition for casual dating or exclusive dating. For dating, it typically means exclusive, and then you confess love and you run into a relationship. So all in all, you will find that it's really interesting how people in one culture see the dating culture in another country or in another culture.
So that might be the opinion of a lot of, or a portion of Chinese people towards Western dating culture. And then in the West, if someone came to China, they might think that dating or marriage here is too rushed and it's too almost utilitarian in a sense, like it's too much for its utilitarian purposes, like having children or starting a family, and not so much for your spouse or the marriage itself or the love itself.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking about this question, why people value the conception of family or have children too much. I think maybe it derives from the very old times. Like people have this very strict conception that you should start a family, you marry someone, then you have a children, then you can carry on the family line. And then people value or press highly of the like a collective in China.
Family is a collective unit.
Family bond to carry on the family line. So I think maybe that's why people are so rushing to a relationship and marriage.
Right. So no matter what your views on dating and marriage, I hope that everyone can find the person they would like in the future.
Okay, that's all for today's show. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, everyone. If you like the show and would like to see more in the future, make sure to share, subscribe, and like.
Bye.